competing with passengers. And the TSA has been charged with screening people and not product, and they make that abundantly clear every time we have those two conflicting. And so the expectation is that suppliers yield to passengers as it should be. So that's not ideal either. And of course, the third way is, as I mentioned earlier, Terminal D dock. Some concessionaires actually utilize the Terminal D dock to get product to the older terminals. So for example, Terminal D is physically connected to Terminal B as in boy, and so it's a viable alternative to get product to Terminal B if you so desire. And technically you could also get to Terminals A and C through sky bridges, land bridges basically, that go over International Parkway. But it's a lot of walking and it's not an efficient way of doing things. Terminal E is very isolated all by itself and has no sky bridge connection at all. And the only way to get there would be through the Skylink train system, which is frowned upon for utilization in terms of couriering product for obvious reasons, because then you're competing with passengers again. So I'm not sure if I answered your question really well, but I do know that it is something that is being seriously looked at. We actually had a consultant come in, and we spent a lot of time and money analyzing this whole thing. And we do recognize that it's an opportunity with this TDP to address it. And my hope and anticipation is that we will have some sort of scaled down dock opportunities in those older terminals. Maybe not at each and every terminal, but hopefully we'll have something of that nature.
She goes first and then I'll get you next.
Is the length of the lease determined business by business, or is it going to be a blanket approach to all the concessions?
It's determined categorically. So a full-service restaurant obviously requires a capital investment that's going to necessitate a longer term to get that investment back. So therefore, we would anticipate something of that magnitude to justify a 10-year lease. However, if you're doing a smaller scale food and beverage operation, like a Subway sandwich place, you probably are going to be looking at a 7-year lease. And that would be true with some retail operations. I think newsstands might even see only a 5-year lease. Because again, the capital investment is lower, and it's all based on what we reasonably can expect from a capital investment perspective. Kiosk would probably be on an even shorter term because, again, a kiosk is going to be a very minor investment, relatively speaking.
Well, that's fine.
Just to reiterate a question that was asked earlier, with regard to location opportunities, how will those opportunities be afforded to potential vendors, and when will those opportunities be indicated, and can you express a preference for a location?
This is Kevin Lemons.
I think what you're asking about is more with regard to what we refer to as packages. The way we handle all of our contracts is that locations will be put on packages for the bid. Packages may be a package of only one location, or it may be a package of 3 or 4 or more locations. When you bid, you will bid on the package you want to go into. Does that help? That is to be determined. In the past, they have cross terminals. That is still an item that we're working through.
Who else?
What are the leases in the triple net? Is it depend on the locations and the term, or is that a fixed rate for all the vendor? The rate, per square feet, and the triple net, what are those?
The minimum annual guarantee, which is the rent, has not been determined for each of the packages yet. And it is not a set amount per square foot as it is in some malls. It's going to be based on the concept, and it's going to be package specific. Okay, so, and those have not been determined yet. You can take a look at some of our past RFPs to kind of get a general feel for it, but I wouldn't want to give any dollar figures now because that would certainly be incorrect information. You guys are smart, don't have too many questions.
Thank you. Historically, what percentage of the proposals that go all the way up to the airport board get approved? Because at that point, it's gone through all the vetting process. So is it more kind of a, you know, figurehead kind of thing, or do some then not make it past that point?
What's submitted is approved, if you will. Now, if we may have a space, I'm sorry. What we have is that submitted to the board is approved, okay? Now, we may have a location or something that may not be bid on or whatever the case may be as it relates to that segment of it not being accepted. But as it relates to going to the board, we're going to the board with those that the selection committee has assessed and have determined that this is the concept that has met the necessary criteria, and in most cases, they're going to be approved.
Are the past RFPs available on the website as well?
There are some past RFPs on the website now. There was one still on there that has just not been pulled down yet. If you want to look at it quickly because it's going to be pulled down very soon because we've got to make room for the new stuff.
Okay, so I might be asking a wrong question here, but when the packages and the RFPs go out for proposal, and so Section A closes down first, and we bid on something that maybe hasn't closed down yet, we win that bid 6 months later, how does that affect us when it comes to the process? Because certain sections are closing at certain times. Will you guys put the entire terminal out to bid, or is that to be determined, or?
It's kind of still out to be determined. I think the plan is to put the whole terminal out for bid at one time. And so those of you that are still in operation will remain in operation until that section of the terminal closes down. And we hope to have all the answers of who will be going into the terminal well before, obviously, the place closes down.
Section A closes down. Okay, so Section A closes down when it closes down in 2011. And then Section A won't open up until Section C of A is finished, or will we still open up in sections?
The terminal will be opened up in sections.
So we might put a request out possibly for Section B, and then it'll open up when it opens up. I mean, okay.
To kind of keep it in perspective, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, each terminal is each section of the terminal, there are going to be 3 sections in each terminal. Each section of the terminal is expected to be closed for 1 year. And so it's going to be a 3-year process for the whole terminal to be remodeled and reopened again. So in theory, you can be submitting a proposal for something that will not open for 3 years. Okay? If you happen to have something in that 3rd section that you win. Does everybody understand that? Okay.